both an RA and a broker-dealer. And so the reporter said, fine, I won't say who his broker-dealer is. And so it protected the client, and it got the journalist the information he needed. Last thing, tell the truth. I've talked about that, and so we can move on. Again, when the sell side was dominant, and I used to have to interview sell side analysts, I would, not a very long time, there were certain brokerage houses and certain analysts I just plain wouldn't call because they were shills for their companies. And because they were doing a ton of investment banking for them, and they had huge conflicts of interest and so forth and so on. This also applies to the buy side. And so here's what a journalist is going to want, and here's what an investor is going to want. And so this is applicable to newsletters, op-ed pieces, any type of venue that you envision as part of your firm. People want to know basic stuff. Why do you own something? Why would you sell it? A remarkable number of investment advisors and money managers won't talk about their sell discipline. A sell discipline is, as you all know, is just as important as a buy discipline. What sort of valuation metrics are you going to apply to a given security that's going to tell you, I need to get out of this? And if you have sold a stock, tell somebody that. We sold it, and here's why we sold it. We decided that it was fully valued for the following reasons. And you know what? If you have a relationship with company management, that company management will understand, if you're quoted on that. Yeah, most company managers know when their stock is rich. That's when they suspend their stock buyback programs. So they know their own valuation just as well as you do. And then how does it fit into the big picture? Where does it fit into both your portfolio, but also within any kind of asset class allocation? Why do you own United Health Group and not WellPoint? Why do you own General Mills and not Nabisco? And you can, bringing context to that particular aspect of what you own is important. And it elevates the story, especially if you're talking about a local stock. Why is General Mills better than Kellogg? That type of perspective is important for a journalist, important for an investor. Do you just own General Mills because you can play golf with the executives? No. We like this story for the following reasons. We have access to management, we have a good relationship with them, and we are able to extract very helpful, publicly available information and perspective from them, and we think they're a better investment than Kellogg, and for the following reasons. And so investors want to know that, the media want to know that. And then how does it protect my downside? As you all know, in talking to any clients, the single hottest topic right now is risk management. And clients are worried about volatility, and that has not gone away. It has not gone away since 2008. All you have to do is look at the long lag of money before it went into stock funds again. And people are really, really nervous. And I've had some rather long and extended conversations with a couple of money managers this week. Are you hedging a default right now? And if so, why? How are you doing it? Are you buying options? I want to know. We could have another black swan event on August 2nd, for all we know. And so people are really, really top of mind on risk management. Always keep that in mind. Always keep in mind that in this day and age, protecting your downside, protecting against loss, we've begun to codify behavioral finance now. People are winning Nobel Prizes for the work that's being done there, and even the journalists know about it. And so to the extent that you can apply these disciplines and explain to them why it's important to you, they'll know that you're thinking about this both for plan sponsors and for individual wealth management. Oh, and then the first thing we always tell people, especially if you're talking to your investors, we say, why should I invest with you? One of the first things we always hear from investment managers, in particular wealth managers, is that we provide great service. And I've gotten to the point, I've probably lost clients because of this, where you go into a new business pitch, and I start off by saying, you know what, I'm going to ask you what your value proposition is. And the one answer you're not allowed to give me is that we provide great service. You know, I just hired a guy to clean my carpeting, and the first thing he said is that we provide great service. That's great. You're there on time. You look nice. But do you clean the carpet? Is the carpet clean when I'm done? And in the same respect, I think an investor wants the same information. Are you going to make me some money? Are you going to protect me from getting caught with my pants around my ankles when Lehman goes bankrupt? And finally, are you going to be there in 5 years? Or are you going to blow your firm up with all sorts of risky investments, or what? I mean, tell me that you're going to make me some money and that you're not going to lose it. Anybody know Charlie Kelly? Charlie Kelly is a wonderful guy. He runs equities out of Churchill Capital Management. And he once told me, he said, you know, all really great fortunes are made usually with one stock. It's the founder's stock in Medtronic. It's you know, the railroad company. It's the people who just hit a 50-bagger on one stock. But when it comes to just regular good old-fashioned money management, I see my role as singularly one prong, and that is, don't lose it. Don't lose it. And to the extent that you can assure your investors that they are not going to lose a ton of money, and this is you know, when that whole business of the fear of loss, we've really had that etched into our industry in the past, you know, 4 or 5 years. And you go back even to 10 years where the S&P was essentially flat. You know, people are starting to really be concerned about all this historical falderall that they say, well, the S&P is going to return 10% a year. Well, not necessarily. And so, you know, a lot of what investor wants to hear is, look, I am not going to boot this thing into the dugout for you. And here is how I'm thinking about those possibilities and how I'm protecting you against that eventuality. Newsletters. Again, you know, this I hate it when people read slides, but tell me something I don't know, and tell me something in English. I just edited a newsletter where people were talking about beta and dispersion of returns, and you know, nobody knows what that stuff is. Tell me the beta, you know, translate it. Talk to me like you're talking to my mother. Tell your mother what you're doing. Tell your mother how you're looking at their securities. And this is assuming that your mother is not, you know, Carly Fiorini. But the fact is, you know, people want things in plain English. That's why everybody, it's fascinating. I write probably 15 annual reports a year, and every single CEO I talk to says, I want my annual report to sound like Warren Buffett. Now, Warren Buffett has had a woman write his annual report for probably 20 years, and I'm not even sure he reads it. I'm sure Charlie Munger reads it and runs it through, but the fact is, everybody wants to sound like Warren Buffett. And so I'll start out, and I'll hand that CEO a Warren Buffett-like draft in which, you know, he or she starts out and says, you know, we had a really lousy year this year, and here's why it went bad. And I know for a fact, out of the gate, that that's never going to see the light of day. And what happens, I'll see shareholder letters go through 8, 10, 12, 15 iterations. And what happens is that the CEO eventually reverts to form, and the thing gets cloudier and cloudier and more abstruse, and the sharper edges that distinguish a true Warren Buffett letter begin to get slowly buffed out. And I don't know if you've ever seen there's a famous triptych almost. It starts off where somebody in the trenches says, "This is a steaming crock of shit." And did I have that in here? Is that in here?
No,
oh, we took it out. and nobody, and it's going to wreck our company. And then it goes up a level, and this is a steaming pile of manure. And then before you know it, it gets all the way to the top, and it's a fertilizer, and it shall do great things for our company. And that's often what happens to investment messages. If you guys are worried, it's okay to say to your clients, "We're worried, and here's why." I have one money manager who is really, really bearish right now. And I've gotten him to the point where he's willing to say that. He's willing to say, I'm worried about the markets, and here's how we're protecting you. I don't care right now as much about upside potential as I do about downside risk. And one of the tenets of our industry is what I've come to call the "don't worry, be happy" syndrome, where you see constantly in our industry people getting people to come and talk. The Dow. Remember the book, The Dow 10,000? It was when the Dow was at 3,800 or some such thing, and the guy comes out with the Dow 10,000, and especially in the broker-dealer community, brokers always want to convince investors that things are going to grow that trees are going to grow to the sky, and so one of the that is no longer an operative strategy, and so as somebody talking to investors, somebody talking to the media, there's not a lot of truck in that any longer, and then. Also, when I tell you to tell me something I don't know, again, I started out with a little riff about the fact that people can get happy talk all day long on cable television. And this is something, and they can get generic stuff all the time. This goes for talking to investors, this goes for talking to the media. Come up with something that is a little bit different. Tell me how you think. Not how, not something that you saw in the Wall Street Journal. Not something that is just generic claptrap. First of all, that won't get you published, and secondly, it won't instill a lot of faith in your own investors. Why am I doing business with you and not with some other bozo who indexes, a closet index fund? Because I can get that for not a lot of fees. Why am I paying 150 basis points to this firm, or 100 basis points to that firm, or 2 and 20 to a hedge fund? What value are you adding if you can't tell me something that is truly different? And then keep it short. Keep it short. Mark Twain once apologized in a letter. He says, "I'm sorry this letter is so long. I didn't have time to shorten it." And so, what's news? And I'm almost done, actually. What's news? News is not positive or negative stuff. News is simply change. News is change. And so when someone comes to me as a PR person, or as a newspaper reporter, or a magazine writer, say, I have some news, and the news is that we have a really great firm